You're back on the Mountain Morning Show. We are joined by recruiter guy Bill Humbert. It is the first Monday of April. Can you believe that?
We're burning through the months.
Oh my goodness, aren't we? Well, we did see before how we are expecting some snow, which is very, very much welcome for both of us, and I'm sure you guys as well. But we are having a conversation about how to deal with difficult people. And this is something that at some point or another, yes, we've all had this experience, whether you were that difficult person or you're dealing with someone, but it seems that this probably falls into two categories: employees and then customers and guests. So with that in mind, how would you define a difficult guest or customer?
Well, essentially it's going to be two different categories.
Right.
One will be somebody who feels like they didn't get the value they expected. And then the other would be somebody who's a bully, and that's their normal course of action to get what they want, maybe over and above what they should have. So I can tell you a story about a time I was a difficult person. Can you imagine that?
Not at all.
Me, Moa? Back in the 70s, I went and I needed a new exhaust system for my car. Went to one of the national chains because they sold me on their value. It was 2 parking lots from my dealer. Picked up the car, drove off the lot, and I felt something scrape. I went, what? So we got up, got home, pulled in the parking lot, something scraped. What? I looked underneath the car. There were no hangers on my exhaust system.
Oh.
And it was dragging every time I crossed. And so the next morning, and then were closed. The next morning I went in, and I was in their showroom, and I said, you didn't put any hangers on my exhaust system. And the guy said, well, corporate says we're not allowed to buy from dealerships. And so by this time there was a line of people behind me, and I said, well, so you're going to tell these people here that if you don't have their hangers, you're just going to let them drive off the parking lot with their exhaust system hanging?
Wow.
And with that, a couple people left.
Oh, shoot.
And I said, my dealership's right over there. All you would have had to do was call the dealership. You would have been able to get the hangers, and I'd have been out and everything had been fine, and I wouldn't be here right now. And so that's a case where eventually they went to the dealership and bought the hangers and did the right thing. But in my mind, I spent an extra $100 for this exhaust system and I didn't get the value. So it's really important to understand that sometimes people were just upset because they didn't get the value. The other is a bully, and that bully is just going to come in and try to quickly overrun you to get what it is that they want.
Number 2, we have types of nonverbal communication. And this is, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's excessively higher for how your hands are, the way you're kind of turned, a lot more effective even than what's coming out of your mouth sometimes.
Oh, it is, because we are unconsciously reading that other person all of the time. We don't know it. Can we stand up and just...
Yeah, we're going to demonstrate some of the stuff that Bill's talking about. So, all right, Bill.
So, one of the things that can happen is that the other person, the person who's listening, is in a total trying to ignore you, okay, which can make people go ballistic.
Right.
So that's rolling your eyes, oh, geez, not another one of these.
That is what my husband tells me I do. The eye roll, it just happens. I don't plan that one.
I know. And then standing, like this. Or
is this okay?
That's okay. That's somewhat open. Yeah.
No? Okay.
But, you want to be open.
I need to watch out for this. Okay.
Right. And then the tapping of the feet, is this
the impatience?
The impatience.
Okay.
The other thing that's really important is to understand that when you're talking to a person kind of like this, so sort of the 90-degree angle.
Just you or me? So you're talking to me. But
I'm talking to you, and we're at a 90-degree angle. That's a consultative body language.
Okay.
If I'm talking to you like this, it's confrontational body language. Okay. And then the other thing that we need to be worried about, how about if you can just take one step this way, is spacing. Now, we all have natural spacing, and as I approach you, when you get uncomfortable, take a step back.
Okay.
Okay?
It's kind of cool. Well, that's also a cultural thing too.
It is.
Because I know that depending on where you're from, that can vary dramatically.
Exactly. So spacing is something, if the person's in some cultures, they can get really, really close.
Right.
Other cultures, they want to be further away. So understand spacing, and the person will tell you just by their body language
if that's okay
the appropriate spacing.
Okay.
So just be aware of those things, and it's very important to be aware of those things.
Yeah, well, that's really valuable stuff to be aware of. And like we said with the cultural thing, I know in certain areas, I've experienced that myself, where it's something where even if you're not intending to make them feel awkward or odd. I mean, sometimes that is intentional what people are trying to do, but you need to be so aware of things like that. But yeah, keep that in mind as well. Okay, so you have your nonverbal communication, and then, okay, so what is the best way to prepare to deal with a difficult person? You've been dealing with them for a long time now in terms of just taking what they're dishing out, but how do you actually prepare to have that confrontation?
Well, it's important to develop a process. And once you develop a process, then you become more comfortable with it. You know, 98 to 99% of the people are just beautiful. You know, they're great. But there's that 1% to 2% occasionally that you get that are just not. And so if you develop a process to handle it, it's really important. One of the things that's really, really important is to act confidently. Because if you act confidently, and I'm not saying be, I'm saying act. You know, one of the things the Marines do very well when they're training their young soldiers that are coming in is they tell them to act proud. An 18-year-old doesn't know how to be proud. But they've seen enough TV and stuff, they know how to act proud. And then the Marines tell them how to act proud. Well, the same thing is true in this situation. Even if you're not confident, be calm and act confidently. The last thing you want to do is get into a screaming confrontation.
Right.
So what I have found is you lower your voice instead of raising your voice, and that causes them to listen. Part of your process needs to listen intently, ask to restate the problem, because it's important to both be on the same problem that you're trying to solve.
Yeah. What are we talking about here?
Exactly. And then, you know, understand it, and then allow them to propose a solution first. You know, what would make you feel better? Allow them to propose a solution. And then sometimes you can't meet that solution. And so you listen to their solution and say, well, you know, I can't do that. However, would it make you feel better if I did this? And you give them a proposal.
Excellent. So how do we go about helping people actually remember this process? Because you've shared this discussion with many.
Well, I use the word or the letters LUP LUP. Listen, understand, propose. Listen, understand, propose.
All right.
And you know, depending on the conversation, you could be LUP LUP LUP.
That's true. Okay, so we have that, and then last of all, once the problem is solved, once you've acted courageously to approach that individual, what then?
You know, I would suggest that you get their contact information and then write them a nice thank you note. And you know,
so not an email, specifically a note, or does it matter?
I would, if I could, I'd send a note to their home.
Really? Okay.
You know, how many people do that?
Nobody. That's why it would stick out.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, Bill, thank you so much. Anything else to add this morning?
Park City Career Network, we now have 101 people who have found jobs and that we're aware of, that we're pretty excited about that for them. And we meet Mondays from 9 until 10:30 a.m. at Temple Har Shalom up in the conference room upstairs. And you know, Temple Har Shalom has been so nice. Over the past almost 6 years now, they've allowed us to use their facilities. There's no charge for the people participating, and come business casual.
Very good. Well, Bill, thank you so much. Let's remind folks one more time where they can find you online.
www.recruiterguy.com.
All right, you heard it from Bill Humbert, our friend here every Monday. You can, or rather every first Monday of the month, rather. You can expect him here on the Mountain Morning Show. It is 32 minutes after the hour. When we get back, we're talking with Zane about his welding experience. This guy's got some pretty cool stuff.
I know he does. That's neat. Yeah.
That and much more coming at you right here on the Mountain Morning Show.